This time Stark, and in this video we are looking at economic changes and poor relief under Elizabeth I. So first of all we need to look at the problems within England when Elizabeth came to the throne. As when Elizabeth came to the throne, there were many problems with the English economy. So one of the main issues was inflation, which had risen by 400% over the 16th century. And inflation was caused by a number of factors. So for example, it was caused by the significant government spending under the Tudor monarchs, debasement of the coinage, bad harvests, and more land coming onto the open market, which led to a scramble to buy among the gentry and nobility, which ultimately forced up land prices. There was also significant population rises within England, and by the end of Elizabeth's reign there was a population of 4 million people, and this can be compared with 1.5 million in 1470. And this was despite the high mortality rate caused by disease outbreaks. So now we need to look at the ways that Elizabeth managed to improve the economy, and she did this by doing three things. She exploited traditional sources, she stabilised the currency, and she introduced some local initiatives. So first of all, we'll look at exploiting traditional sources. And the new Book of Rates introduced at the end of Mary's reign increased income from custom duties on exports. The recovery of the cloth industry also helped generate taxes. Elizabeth also claimed income from a variety of religious sources, like the first fruits tax on ecclesiastical office holders. Parliament was approached to grant additional subsidies to finance foreign policy, and crown lands were sold off to raise £800,000. Elizabeth also granted monopoly rights to produce or import particular products, and these were sold to merchants. She also underpaid certain officials and delayed the appointment of new bishops so that the crown could collect church taxes, and she used diplomacy in foreign affairs rather than conflict, and this was similar to the policies under Henry VII. Elizabeth also stabilised the currency, so she announced the withdrawal of the debased coins, and whilst this did cause some suffering to certain individuals, it ensured that the only sound coins were in circulation, and throughout the rest of her reign, Elizabeth never debased the coinage again. In terms of local initiatives, many counties like Northamptonshire, Buckinghamshire and Worcestershire attempted to establish appropriate wage rates for different occupations. So this would prevent wages which were too high or too low. The Statute of Artificers was created in 1563, and this is attempted to reduce the number of vagabonds, and a vagabond was someone who was wandering from place to place without a home or a job. And it established a number of rules. So one was compulsory labour, especially at harvest time, a minimum period of 1 year for the hire of workmen, where they could not leave or be dismissed without good reason, a prohibition on anybody following a craft unless they had undergone a 7-year apprenticeship, and the setting up of maximum wage rates, which were monitored by JPs in every county. Even so, the government did lack powers of enforcement, and it was difficult for the JPs to manage it within their own county. So finally, we need to look at poor relief, as this was a big theme during Elizabeth's reign, and there were many problems with the poor in Elizabethan England, and Cecil worried that it could lead to a serious threat to law and order. Traditionally, the churches had provided poor relief. However, after the Reformation, many institutions that provided poor relief had been destroyed, and other methods were required. So before Elizabeth, some acts had been passed in 1552, which meant that beggars had to have a licence to beg, and in 1555. Yet the results of these were minimal. So there were two categories of poor. So there were the impotent poor, and these were people unable to work due to a disability or age, and the idle poor, and those were fit to work but too lazy to find a job. So the main problem was the lack of distinction between the idle poor and those who are genuinely seeking for a job. This was changed in 1572 though, when an Act of Parliament introduced a law which distinguished between the idle poor and those who are genuinely unemployed. So the 1572 Poor Relief Act also made donations to local authorities compulsory. In 1576, houses of correction were set up to punish those who refused to work. And when social problems became bad in the 1590s due to things like inflation, poor harvests, high taxation and the effects of a war against Spain, the Privy Council were forced to take further action. Now this was also in the context of food riots in both London and the South East in 1595, and then East Anglia in 1596 to 1597. So the Poor Law Act of 1597 confirmed the compulsory poor rate and set up apprenticeships to train boys until 24 and girls until 21. The impotent poor were also to be provided in almshouses or poorhouses, and this remained the basis of England's treatment of the poor until the 19th century. So that is how Elizabeth managed to improve the economy whilst also improving the lives for the poor. So thank you for watching this video and see you soon. Bye.